Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here to share with you the books that I read in October. Now before I turned the camera on, I did find some thickers and I just spelled out October reads. And because of the number of books that I read in October, I don't need to make as many of those little cards. I think I read 9 books and I need to fill out 12 spaces to make the 2 full page layout. Now the core kit that I chose for this month was called Dream, I believe, and it was a core kit that I haven't used a lot of, so there was quite a few cards still in that kit, so it was nice that I got to use it. So what I did when I decided to work on this project again was that I went to my Goodreads app, went under the red tab, and when you tap on the photo, it becomes sort of like bigger, and then you take a screenshot. And then once I had all the books, then I went to my pick frame app. I chose the frame, I guess, that has 2 pictures, and then I used the ratio 4:3, and I printed all the pictures up till the end of December, and then I print them and I cut them out. Once I have the picture, I go through all the Project Life cards and I find some that coordinate the most with the photo. I slap the photo on the card, and then at the beginning of the year, I stamp out 100 little books. I stamp out the numbers. It takes quite a bit of time to do all that, but then I'm done for the year. Instead of stamping out every month the number of books I have, I just do at least 100 at the beginning of the year, and then I don't have to worry about it the rest of the year. Now I've added the number to each book, I've added the star rating, and then now I'm using this October reads and card, and I just put down all the letters down because I know that that's going to be ready. Now I'm ready to work on the rest of the pages. Now what I decided to do was I was going to do the star rating right away, but I made a boo-boo. This book here was supposed to be first, and that was a 3.5 reads, and Quintana of Charon was a 5-point read, and I'll eventually fix that. But I decided to go through all the books, and I'm looking on my Goodreads app, and I'm looking at what I rated all the books, and decide to do all the stars all at once, and that way I don't have to worry about it every time I'm working on a specific book. They're all going to be done. Then once I'm going to get that done, then I'm going to be working on one book at a time. And I have to say, this month I didn't go overboard with the embellishments. I think I'm just at the point I just want to get these done. Let's start talking about the books that I read, and it's the first one here that you're seeing right now, One Tiny Lie by K.A. Tucker. This is the second book in a series, and it follows the first 2 books. It follows a set of sisters. The first one was Casey and sort of her struggle because of a big tragic event that happened in their life, and then the second book follows Livy. Livy's the younger sister, and now you follow her as she goes off to university. And when Casey was going through her things, Livy felt like she had to keep it together to keep their family together. So now it's sort of her time to deal with her struggles. And it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, and this was a different book. I really enjoyed it. It follows... There's this race that happens every November, and these untamed horses end up coming out of the water, and if they can kind of catch one of those horses and they race with them, they can be part of this race and they can win a lot of money. Now, a lot of people die during these races. You follow Puck, who needs to enter the races because she needs to try and save her family home. and I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. The next book I read was 4 Seconds to Lose, and this is book number 3 in the 10 Tiny Breaths series by K.A. Tucker. So again, it's one of the characters that was in the first book that was sort of Casey's boss, and now he is a strip club owner, but he's not your typical strip club owner. Like, he's there to try and protect the girls, and there's a new girl that comes to work for him, and he kind of falls for her, and it's their story. Really good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Now, the next book I read was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire, which is part of the Wayward Children series, and this follows Jack and Jill, which is the twins, and it's their adventure, like how they went to their magical world and exactly what happened. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm starting to enjoy that series a little bit more. The next book I read was Froy of the Exile by Melina Marchetta. It's part of the Lumitere Chronicles, the first book being Finnegan of the Rock. And Froy of the Exile follows Froy, which he was a character in the first book. Now, the first book, the story finished itself, and now it's following a different character. And I like that when they do that, because the first story has a full story and then you move on to the next character. And Froy was someone that I really didn't enjoy in the first book. But in the second book, he's trying to redeem himself, and you kind of fall in love with him. And I really enjoyed that book. I gave it 5 stars. Now, the next book I read was Genuine Fry by E. Lockhart, and that one I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It's a young adult mystery thriller, and you follow June, but is she June or someone else? And that's what you're trying to figure out the whole time, is that who is she? So it was okay. I enjoyed it. It's not a very long book, so I got through it really quickly. It wasn't my favorite thriller, but it was okay. It was a good read. And because this is a mystery thriller, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but I enjoyed it. So now the next book I read, I'm going to start with this one, and then I'm going to realize that, oops, that's the wrong one. So the next book I did read was Quintana of Charon, which is also part of the Lumitere Chronicles. And this follows Quintana. And you meet her in the second book with Froy. So this follows Froy and Quintana. And I really enjoyed this series, and I gave it 5 stars. And the next book I read was 5 Ways to Fall. It's also part of the 10 Tiny Breaths by K.A. Tucker, and this follows another set of characters. This follows Ben, which I have to say, in the first few books, Ben wasn't my favorite character to follow. So this wasn't one of my favorite books in the series. I gave it a 3.5. It was still enjoyable because it was part of the series. I wanted to make sure that I read it, so I did read it, and I'm just that way. I like to finish series, so I'm glad that I read the series. I still gave it 3.5. And the last book I read is Beneath the Sugar Sky, and this is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series. And this we go back to the Home for the Wayward Children's School, and we follow, what is her name? Rinny, and she is Sumi's daughter. But there's just one problem. Sumi died before she could give birth to her. So this is the mystery of that story, and I enjoyed that story. I gave it 3.5 stars. Like I said, I'm starting to enjoy the Wayward Children a little bit more. It's not 5-star reads for me, but again, when I start a series, I gotta see it through. And usually things like this kind of happen that I enjoy the story more and more. So this wasn't my best month, I guess you could say. I had a lot of 3-star and 3.5-star reads, but I did read quite a few books, and just because I gave 3.5 to a book doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it. It just means that it wasn't like a 4-star or a 5-star read. I still enjoyed reading the book. I don't regret reading the book. It's just it wasn't one of my all-time favorites. So I've gotten into the habit that as soon as I finish writing down everything, you know, about the books, and right away I cut little strips of white paper, because some of my page protectors are 4x6 and I don't want the cards, you know, moving around. So I glue them down to that little piece of paper and then they're not going to move. But I put them right away in my album, because otherwise, you know, it could be a couple of months and it still won't be done. So even though this process takes me about an hour and a half, at the end, I make sure that I put everything away. And just a reminder that right now on sale is my Scrapathon 7, and it starts on March 1st. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.